exhibit that I would like to enter.
That will be Exhibit 26, Ms. Domino.
Thank you. Finally, there are, well, not finally, but there are three letters that I would also, I do not wish to read, but I would like them to be made a part of the record. Two of the letters are signed by Senators J. Bennett Johnston and John Rowe, and one of the letters is signed by Billy Tozan, our state representative, representative to the House of Representatives. And I would just summarize that they do ask EPA, and these letters are dated earlier and do not address this specific hearing, but they do ask EPA to lend its efforts to an even-handed, fair resolution of this controversy, and I'd like to submit those. There is one other exhibit that I would like to present. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I have in hand more than 4,000 signatures of support from the citizens of this area. And in conclusion, I would like to thank those people who have come forward in support of this company and to express my sincere appreciation to all of you for your careful consideration of these requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Domino. The next sheet I have is a Charles Richard, but hasn't he already spoken? Thank you. Frank DeGise? Degise. That's what I get afraid of. Sometimes people will leave. Dale Robichaud. Okay, Mr. Sneed. If you wish, you may, in the interest of time, just submit it for an exhibit, or you may read it. It would be your choice.
It's about 30 seconds. I'll read it if you don't mind.
It's all right.
Statement from Dale Robichaud. I support MSP fully with a clear conscience and truly believe that they're operating their facility in a safe and healthy manner. I urge you to listen to all of the facts, emphasis, that have been presented and beg of you to do your job. Consider only the facts and issue MSP the permit that they have applied for. Thank you very much, Dale P. Robichaud.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed. Don Domino.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Don Domino. I'm president of Frank's Motor Company in Morgan City. I'm a past parish police juror, which is now the parish council, as it's been reformed. I'm here as a businessman to tell the people that have taken 9 years or 8 years to decide on an issue that has been dividing this country, I think is absolutely ridiculous. I live here. I've lived here all of my life. I know people in this audience here tonight that stood up here and talked against this company, and I have family and I have friends on this side in throughout this auditorium that has spoken in favor of this company. And I do not have, personally, the background to decipher the hundreds of thousands of words and letters and data that have been written over this issue to stand here and tell you that Don Domino knows, okay? And I know that there's people out here, there's doctors, there's attorneys, there's educated people on both sides of this issue. But I'm saying the background that is necessary to tell this community lies within a small group of educated people, of scientists, of people that can evaluate the data and tell this community once and for all what is the facts and what is the fate of this company. Because a lot hinges on a lot of people's future in this community. I say that this process is riddled with flaws, that millions of dollars are being spent on this particular issue that could be remedied quickly with scientific data, researched and evaluated by impartial parties, not on the side of the company, not against the company, but there are people in this United States that have the background that can tell us what is the facts. And I'm making a plea because I'm going to tell you, this issue for 9 years has divided this company, this community, and there are people here that I went to school with that spoke here tonight, and there are people on other sides that I know personally, very close personal friends of mine, and it has divided the community on the hot issues. Now there's 30,000 people that didn't even show up here tonight that live around this planet. And they are the ones that don't really know, and they are the ones that sitting back in their homes saying, I wish the EPA would please refine their process and become more efficient in coming up with some answers for this community. You gentlemen are going to go home tonight to a community that's not torn apart by this type of an issue. And you got families and everything, and there's people making decisions on jobs, on where they're going to live. You've heard ladies stand up here tonight saying that they're going to move out of this community because of this thing. 9 years is too long, gentlemen. I was trying to talk to somebody about vitrification. The reason I don't do any kind of research in it because I don't have a lot of background after I read the data. I was trying to tell the lady that I respect and has very good education that, you know, it's like drinking out of a lead goblet because the glass encapsulates the lead. So you can drink it and the lead doesn't come out. Oh, and she tells me, she says, well, Don, you don't know that wine leaches out the lead and you're not supposed to be drinking that anymore? I said, I didn't know that. So she's supposed to be showing me some data on that. I got a lead crystal canister in my dining room full of wine that we drink out of all the time. Now, we can't get the tobacco industry to really, you know, all of these years to say, is it safe to smoke? Well, now, finally, after all these years, saccharin, you can go down the line, everything is bad for you. We need some scientific evaluation of the data and have people coming up before you that are giving you factual information, not partial figures or data that's taken possibly out of context. Your people should be able to evaluate this. And I'm here tonight to tell you the 9 years is passing, and that's a shame. But I should certainly hope it's not going to be another 9 years and we're still going to be sitting up here talking about, you know, whether or not this community is safe or not. And my final deal is that if the data says the community is safe, then issue the permits. If the data says it's not, then don't. But do it, and do it efficiently, and let's get on with our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Domino. James Kyle.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this area needs marine shell processors. As a major employer with 380 employees, it is an immediate plant and responsible for generating hundreds of more jobs in our parish. It's easy to see the devastating results if we did not have MSP. But instead of talking in hundreds, let's look at the importance of MSP on a personal level. Joe needs his job, which is provided by MSP, to provide for his wife and children. Lester, Raymond, and Bonnie needs their job to pay their house notes, car note, and other expenses. We could keep on going 1,718 times, but I think it's easy to see the importance of MSP as a major employer. First response when talking about eliminating jobs is always, these people will find other jobs. Not in St. Mary Parish. We're living in a parish that's suffering from economic malnutrition, which makes MSP's presence all the more important. We also need MSP because they are a good corporate citizen. No company has given more to this area and its people. Lending a helping hand by being first on the scene after Hurricane Andrew, providing ice, food, and generators to those in need, participating in areas of community activity, from festivals and fairs to ball teams and fishing tournaments, receiving material from boat tech schools in the parish free of charge, sponsoring higher education courses at their facility taught by Nicholas State University, attracting new businesses in their industrial park, committed to doing business with local people. Indeed, MSP is an outstanding corporate citizen. Not only do we need MSP, but we want MSP. The East St. Mary Chamber of Commerce honored MSP as 1992 Business of the Year. This honor is not bestowed upon companies that are not wanted. St. Mary Parish Council passed resolution congratulating MSP founder on being finalist for Entrepreneur of the Year. Such a resolution would not have been passed on behalf of someone who is not wanted. The number of honors that have been bestowed on MSP are too numerous to mention in this limited time. Not only do we want and need MSP, they deserve to be here. MSP has proven that they are capable of meeting all EPA regulations and are willing and able to cooperate with you to receive permanent status. We need MSP, we want MSP, they deserve to be here. I ask that you grant their permanent permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle. I'm on about number 56, but the numbers are misleading because people have come and gone and they've spoken on others' time and so forth, but I am on 56. So we have somewhere about 25 more persons to go. Tom Benton, or T.W. Benton, well, I do hate to see people that have to leave. C.D. Byrne, Sr., Gloria Baralou,
Good evening. My name is Gloria Barrio, and I'm a domestic engineer. Hope y'all know what that is. And the reason that qualifies me to speak here tonight is I have 4 children of my own. And in addition to that, I'm one of the directors for a local Pop Warner cheerleading squad. I'm a religious teacher for a kindergarten class. Every week I have 2 children up on the altar serving at church, and I have 2 other children who are choir members. And in case you're wondering why I'm bringing all that up, is because first of all, I resent when someone says that my husband is getting a paycheck from Marine Shale, and that's why we support Marine Shale. Because in dealing, what I was trying to make a point is 90% of my time is with children. Therefore, I do resent being told that, or compared to swamp rats that eat their young, basically. It's wrong. We don't care about the paycheck. The employees come here because they're loyal to Marine Shale. But our families do come first and foremost. If Marine Shale is not number 1 to us, we support them, but they're not number 1. In addition to that, I guess I'm a little naive, but I'm not really sure why we're here tonight. I've been here like 4 times already, and I had the mistaken impression that the EPA worked for us. I wasn't aware that we were working for the EPA. It seems like we've been trying to get answers on both parts, people opposing MSP and the people who work for MSP. Basically, we're all in agreement. What we want are answers. I haven't heard anything different here tonight that it's been repetitious. Every time we come, it's basically the same thing. The only thing new I heard was the booklet that Mac Ray had. And tell Mac Ray I don't want one of them books. But like I said, basically, we support Marine Shale because we feel they are a good corporate citizen. If they weren't, we wouldn't be here. I've been a resident here for 30 years. We left 2 years because of economic reasons. At one time, I owned a business in the area that catered to children's parties. I had to close it because we didn't have very many children here anymore. I mean, people just, they leave. You don't have money in the area and you leave. But it is important every time that someone comes to speak against Marine Shale, the money issue is brought up, but the only reason we care is because of the money. And I have to reiterate that's not true. And I do feel that sometimes the EPA uses these public hearings as a means to attract media attention. And I don't think you gained it tonight. And I'm going to tell you why. About a year and a half ago, we had a teacher that came through our area and kind of whipped us into shape. His name was Andrew. And after Andrew, it's kind of funny how people who didn't speak to each other for years because of coming to these public hearings and so-and-so did that and said that, it didn't matter anymore. After Andrew, 2 neighbors who weren't speaking, and one neighbor opened up his home and told the other neighbor, come on in, you don't have a place to live, bring your children. Businesses who were against Marine Shale worked in cooperation to help the area get back on its feet afterward. It's been said already, Marine Shale was out there giving support after the hurricane. They gave ice and food and needed supplies for our area batteries and all such. And I was in that line. And so were many people opposing Marine Shell. And I saw no one at Marine Shell saying, whoa, wait a minute. Weren't you at that public hearing talking against us? We're not going to help you. That's not the way Marine Shell operates. They do care about the community, very genuine. The Kents were out there working with the dinner bell, cooking food tirelessly so we could have hot meals out there. And like I said, no one said who could come, who couldn't come, who could receive what they had to offer. It was given to everybody freely and out of their hearts. And you can't say that these people are here and don't do for the community. There's no way. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baraloo. Kathy McGinnis has already spoken also, right? Paul Mader?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul Mader. I represent South Louisiana Electric Cooperative Association. We're a locally owned, member-owned electric utility that provides electric power to Marine Shell processors and to almost the entire population of Amelia. We've had an office in Amelia for 40 years, and I like to think that we're extremely sensitive to local issues because we're owned by the customers that we serve, and we get to hear about that. I can't speak at all about the environmental situation that Marine Shell faces here. I'm not knowledgeable in that area. What I am knowledgeable about is corporations that are good, as other people have said, corporate citizens. And I can also speak about the economic impact of this situation. I don't have charts. I'm not going to use any statistics. I'll be very brief. But we have at South Louisiana Electric carried out for a number of years a very active economic development program because South Louisiana, frankly, has been horribly devastated economically. We are very pleased to have, as one of our customers, a company like Marine Shell. Of course, they use a lot of electricity. We like that, but they put a lot of our people to work, people that live in this community in Amelia. 300 jobs in Amelia is about the entire population of Amelia. I mean, this is a very serious matter. So what I've come to ask you tonight is as you deliberate on what you're going to finally do with Marine Shell, is I realize that you're a scientifically oriented panel and that you have to rule on environmental matters, but there is a major economic component to this thing. And Marine Shell is a major economic player in this area. And a negative ruling against Marine Shell has an impact that is just unbelievable when you consider the things that this area has had to face recently. I've heard Marine Shell say tonight that all they wish is their day in court. If you can not make a negative ruling now and give those people a day in court where the issues that have been brought up now can be carefully and very carefully gone over, it seems to me that is a very reasonable request on their part. If finally your judgment is based on something semantic, like what type of facility Marine Shell has, that doesn't seem to me to be of a scientific matter at all. And maybe a court is the right place for that. At least you should take into account that there are other components to your decision than just the nature of Marine Shell's industry. So I just wanted to let you know that when you've heard tonight that Marine Shell is a good corporate citizen, we, who are owned by the people we serve, can attest to that. When you've heard tonight that there's a major economic impact associated with a negative ruling on your part, we can attest to that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vader. Kim False?
Good evening, I'm Kim Falls. I'm a member of South Louisiana Against Pollution. SLAP is a grassroots environmental citizen group composed of members who reside near the MSP facility. SLAP represents concerned citizens residing in and around Morgan City who are directly affected by the emissions from green shell processors facilities. SLAP's members own property and recreate in southern Louisiana. SLAP's principal activity consists of collecting information on threats to the quality of the environment in southern Louisiana and then taking appropriate actions to respond to those threats. Members of SLAPs have on many occasions observed conditions at the MSP plant in St. Mary Parish that represent a threat to the quality of the environment in which they live. These conditions include numerous fires at the plant, barges containing hazardous waste that leak into volume buff, thick plumes of colored gases emitting from the smokestack at MSP's facility, hazardous waste trucks parked on and around the MSP facility, and contamination found in fish and shellfish taken from volume buff immediately adjacent to the plant. MSP's operations are contaminating the local water supply and the air that we drink and breathe each day. It is the residents of Morgan City who will show both the short and long-term effects of the exposure to emissions from MSP's facility. By asserting that the rotary kiln is a boiler or industrial furnace rather than an incinerator, MSP's materially misrepresents key facts necessary to provide processing of a permit application. The EPA is certainly familiar with MSP's continuing pattern of misrepresentation. In June 1991, the EPA denied MSP's request for renewal of its NPDES permit because MSP had obtained the original permit by misrepresentation of the true nature of its operation. Additionally, the EPA has debarred MSP from participating in federal assistance, loan and benefit programs activities from direct federal procurement for a period of 3 years based upon MSP's criminal conduct and its record of numerous other violations, including repeated attempts at evasion. In addition to the harm of human health and the environment caused by MSP violations of record, air emissions from MSP's rotary kiln creates an excessive risk that may be controlled only by denying MSP's Part B permit application. In a recent hearing conducted before the LDEQ, the Secretary determined that the evidence established an excessive risk from air pollution from the MSP facility. The docket permit number 1036M-1. The Secretary of LDEQ concluded that based upon his review and analysis of the entire records and proceedings, there are numerous instances showing risk exposure in the order of 1 additional cancer per 1,000 people exposed, even 1 additional cancer per 100 people exposed. While MSP has filed a motion for reconsideration which prevents the LDEQ Secretary's decision from being a final order or purpose of review, it is clear that MSP's facility has violated the provisions of the existing air permit, has failed various test burns, and has been operating numerous unpermitted air emission sources since its beginning operations. The evidence contained in the record of the proceedings before the LDEQ is sufficient for the regional administration to determine that the activity proposed to be conducted pursuant to MSP's regular BIF permit application endangers human health or the environment and can be regulated to accept levels only by terminating the proceedings of the permit application. MSP apparently claims that it first became subject to record requirements when EPA promulgation the BFR regulations on February 21st, 1991. MSP, however, was regulated by law to have a record permit by no later than July 31st, 1985, when it began storing and incineration hazardous waste. It is shown by MSP September 19, 1989, criminal conviction for violating RECRA and the Clean Water Act. MSP was indisputably storing hazardous waste without a permit by July 31st, 1985.
Sorry, Mr. Foltz, can you wrap it up, please? Or I can call you back later.
Like it can be called back later.
Okay, thank you. Leo Girardi. David Chestine. Brother Quinn Gauthier. If I mispronounced that, please correct me, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the EPA committee, my name is Brother Akman Goche. That was very close. I'm a member of the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, a religious community of men dedicated to the education of youth. I have served as Public Relations Director at St. Stanislaus College in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and it was through this connection that I became acquainted with the Kent family. Jack Jr., who is a very important part of Marine Shale, was a graduate of our school and valedictorian of this graduating class. It is through this connection with education that I appear before you this evening. On behalf of Marine Shale, I would like to speak of the integrity of the owner, the Kents. I have always believed that any company is as good as its owners. I've been asked by Brother Paul Montero, president of St. Stanislaus College, to read a statement for him, to whom it may concern. As president of St. Stanislaus College in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, I have known Jack Kent for 8 years. It is my personal and professional belief that Jack Kent would never knowingly or intentionally participate in any project or activity that might adversely affect the lives and well-being of others, particularly of young people. I base this judgment on my first-hand knowledge of Jack's continued commitment to whatever promotes the well-being of young people, particularly his generous support of schools and educational programs, both financially and in terms of services rendered. I am not naive. I realize that an individual can be generous in financial support of worthwhile projects, but at the same time be involved in activities that are less than admirable. I do not believe that is the situation with Jack Kent. I believe that Jack is as honest and ethical as he is generous. He continues to do whatever he can for the betterment of his community, his church, and many educational institutions. Sincerely, Brother Paul Montero, President, St. Stanislaus College. Thank you.
So the exhibit number 30. Randy Harrington Sr. Thank you. Melissa Harrington. Not here also. Ramona Stevens.
My name is Ramona Stevens, and I'm here representing Louisiana Environmental Action Network, or LEAN. LEAN requests that EPA move forward as quickly as possible with a decision on this issue. And I'd also like to say that we'd like for y'all to move forward as quickly as possible with a decision on the confidentiality of the permit application. It's kind of hard to stand up here and discuss something when we can't look at it. And if MSP is as good as they say they are and they don't have anything to hide, why did they request that that be held confidential in the first place? I'm not here at the request of Hazardous Waste Treatment Council. LEAN fights Rollins also. I'm not going to stand by and watch Rollins pollute North Baton Rouge or anybody else. EPA is trying to do the right thing. They have denied 2 permits to MSP, but because of due process, MSP is still operating. We were here a couple of years ago with their water permit. EPA denied that. MSP has problems. There have to be technical reasons for EPA to have denied MSP's BIF application. EPA cannot deny this thing without being able to back it up, and they know that. I would like to ask Mr. Wade for a copy of the EPA handbook and also the test results from the EPA lab. I'd like to see those. Air emissions, they don't come down inside the plant. The workers that are going to be harmed have to be a little further away from the stack than that. The citizens in the surrounding area, yes, they're being harmed. ATSDR, yes, they did a report on how good MSP is and how they're not harming the community. I have yet to see a report put out by the Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry that said anybody or any Superfund site was hurting anyone else. We've got people living on top of Superfund sites, and ATSDR is still telling them it's all in your head, the site is not hurting you. EPA is proposing to deny the MSP permit application for 6 rotary kills. The EPA based its proposed denial on a number of factors, which included MSP's history of non-compliance with environmental permits and regulations. I would like to provide some additional supporting information on MSP's history of non-compliance. On January 10, 1991, Dr. Mike McDaniels, Assistant Secretary of the Louisiana DEQ Air Quality Division, issued a document which denied MSP's application for modification of its air emissions permit. The denial was based on consideration of 3 areas: compliance history, evaluation with regard to air quality regulations, and the IT questions. In the areas of compliance history and violations, it was stated that MSP has a history repeating with citations of violations of environmental laws and regulations. MSP has a pattern indicative of disregard for the state's environmental regulations, and MSP has recalcitrance with respect to DEQ's directions. In the area of evaluation with regard to air quality regulations, MSP is presently operating with a substantial number of unpermitted emission sources even after the First Circuit and Louisiana Supreme Court upheld DEQ's denial of request for a variance to operate the sources. The failure of stack tests in 1988 and in 1990 indicates MSP is operating in violation of permitted emission limits, and the record clearly indicates that MSP has knowingly violated the conditions of its existing permit. MSP breached the terms of the January 3, 1986 settlement agreement with DEQ. MSP put emission sources into use prior to obtaining authorization from DEQ. MSP is proposing control strategies that are contingent on settlement agreements and revenues from the second kiln. In the third area, MSP's operations does not provide the necessary consistent levels of emission controls. The emissions from the unpermitted sources causes a deterioration of air quality in the area. Some of the material emitted by the facilities are air toxins which cause cancer, cause public health problems, and cause environmental problems. MSP's current level of business activity is based on operations producing unauthorized emissions from unpermitted sources and emissions from kill number 1, well beyond those agreed to in the permit. MSP has benefited considerably as a result of non-compliance with its existing permit. The permit denial letter states that MSP is once again reminded that continued operation with the unpermitted emission sources and with the emissions beyond permitted levels for kill number 1 constitutes clear violations of air quality regulations. Such emissions must be immediately discontinued. The illegal emissions have continued to be discharged, and MSP has continued to be out of compliance through to the present time. This information should be used as additional supporting documents for EPA to deny the MSP application. I would like to present a copy of the DEQ permit modification denial letter for the administrative record. Lane will be submitting formal technical comments, and we once again support EPA's decision to deny Marine Shell's permit.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. You will send technical comments later. Thank you very much. This will be exhibit number 31. Kathy McGinnis also has spoken. And Tom McGinnis, I think also. Tony Burke.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Tony Burke. I'm the dock supervisor at Marine Shell Processors. I've been down here about almost 2 years. I'm very proud to be a part of this organization. And I brought along my trash can, a waste can for my house. It's got a few items in it I'd like to share with everybody this evening. These items under section 261.4 part B are exempt and are not really waste. But as I'm about to read a few of the labels, I look at labels every day of the week, and I want you to judge for your own self what you think about some of these labels. The first one I've got right here is Tilex. Tilex is a common household product that each and every one of us use every day. The label reads, precautionary statement, hazardous to humans and domestic animals, causes eye and skin irritation, do not get into eyes or on clothing, vapors may irritate, not recommended for use by persons having heart conditions or chronic respiratory problems. I'll stop there. I don't need to go on with that one. I've got another product here that's used every day. It's a common aerosol paint can. Bold print on the bottom of the can, it says danger, extremely flammable, contents under pressure, vapor harmful, irritates eyes, skin, and respiratory tract. This little can here, if it was sitting in your garage, was punctured and heated, caused a pretty bad fire. Not to mention the toxic fumes, gases that would be emitted from this can. I've got another good one here. A lot of these chemicals are underneath the sink at the house. I'll wrap up briefly. The precautionary statements for this chemical is hazardous to humans and domestic animals. Causes eye irritation, avoid contact with eyes. Physical or chemical hazards, contents under pressure, do not use, store near heat, open flames. Do not puncture, incinerate, etc. on down the line. I got one more here I'd like to read. I've got a gallon jug here of common everyday ordinary house paint, and I won't lose it. Gotta keep that little container intact here. Warning, harmful or fatal if swallowed. May cause moderate skin irritation, eye irritation, vapor and spray mist, may be harmful if inhaled, vapor irritants to eyes, throat, combustible material, keep away from heat, sparks, and flame, etc., etc. These materials are not regulated. I'd like to read one small paragraph. Household waste, including household waste that have been collected, transported, stored, treated, disposed, recovered, refused, derived fuels, reused, household waste means any material including garbage, trash, sanitary waste, septic tanks, and on. I could go on. My point this evening is marine shell processors is the solution to many of these problems. This trash can, if I were to dispose each one of these in a municipal landfill, would leach into our water supply. Slap, lean, this is what pollutes our waterways and our fish, not marine shell processors. In closing, I'd like to urge you gentlemen, ladies, sit in front of me, please. I think that marine shell processors will be the new age for handling hazardous materials. We don't like anything in the landfill. We are a recycler. That is my opinion and the opinion of many people that are my co-workers. And I think that as professional people, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Going to take one more, and then it will be break time again. Thaddeus Marcel, Jr. Then I'll take another one. Thomas Kelly, the third. Another. Reynold Barus. Wilma Subra. Oh, excuse me. So I thought somebody said that. Please proceed, sir.
Okay, good evening. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make this very brief. I know everyone is getting real tired, and it's getting into the morning now, not the evening. I've been a resident of Morgan City for 30 years now. I've been working at Marine Shell for a little over 1 year now, and it is a great company for all of the employees that work there. It has given its employees an opportunity to continue their education, and it has provided many other benefits for the employees. It has also contributed greatly to this community. I urge you to continue with your process and to award them the permit that they have applied for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barus. I will take a break now. It's 7 minutes till 12. I will reconvene at 12 midnight with Wilma Subra and Mary Tutwiler. Let's go off the record, please.
Wilma Suber. I live in New Iberia, Louisiana. I'm a native of Morgan City, and a large number of my family members still live in the Morgan City area. Over the last 5 years, MSP has tripled the quantity of hazardous waste they have received. In 1988, MSP received 39,411 tons of hazardous waste. By 1992, MSP was receiving over 107,000 tons. The total tonnage for the 5-year period, 1988 through 1992, was just under 280,000 tons of hazardous waste. MSP is required to notify the regulatory agencies prior to receipt of hazardous waste material. The notification list contained in the administrative record of this proposed permit denial contains a list of hazardous waste codes supplied by MSP. These waste codes consist of 485 different types of hazardous waste substances, encompassing the waste codes D, F, K, P, and U. Some of the hazardous waste substances contained in the list are halogenated solvents, non-halogenated solvents, cyanide, wood-preserving waste, petroleum refinery waste, benzene, carbon-tet, vinyl chloride, chlorodyne production waste, toxaphene production waste, lead smelting waste, polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, toluene, diisocyanate, heavy metals such as lead, beryllium, chromium, and cadmium, and many more extremely toxic waste substances. These are the substances that make up the 380,000 tons of hazardous waste received by MSP in a 5-year period. This list is presented to MSP's customers to demonstrate the different types of materials that MSP takes. These customers consist of 8,700 small-time generators and 137 Fortune 500 companies. These companies are located throughout the United States and Canada. In December of '93, MSP stated that they had active accounts with 300 companies. They send their hazardous waste to MSP, and the citizens are provided with the negative impacts when MSP processes the hazardous waste. The hazardous waste accepted by MSP is incinerated in a rotary kiln and in some cases is further processed in oxidizers. EPA contends that MSP is incorrectly calling the residual ash from the incinerator process aggregate, and that MSP is disposing of the residual ash illegally. The quantity of this illegally disposed of ash material is tremendous. According to data submitted by Marine Shale, more than 285,000 tons of ash have been produced by MSP between 1985 through December 15th of 1993. When the quantity of ash is compared to the quantity of hazardous waste received by MSP for the years 88 through 92, the quantity of ash represents 58% of the hazardous waste. In 1988, 39,411 tons of hazardous waste were received, and 29,595 tons of ash were produced. This quantity of ash is equal to 75% of the hazardous waste received. The lowest percent of ash was produced in '91, when better than 80,000 tons of waste was received, and better than 35,000 tons of ash was produced. And this information is contained on the chart I provided for the record. The average of 58% ash production for the 5-year period demonstrates that the resulting ash represents more than half the tonnage of waste received. According to EPA, the ash containing high concentrations of toxic metals such as lead, zinc, copper, chromium, nickel, and barium, which can potentially migrate into the environment. A portion of the ash from the process is produced as vitrified ash. The vitrified ash equals on average 26% of the hazardous waste received. In 1988, the largest percentage of vitrified ash versus hazardous waste, 44.5%, was generated. Better than 39,000 tons of hazardous waste was received, and better than 17,000 tons of vitrified ash was generated. In 1990, the smallest percentage of vitrified ash was produced, 14,000 tons of ash to 103,000 tons of waste. The largest quantity of vitrified ash was produced in 1993, and that consisted of 35,678 tons of vitrified ash.
I'm sorry, Ms. Super, can you wrap it up, please? Thanks.
The other portions of ash generated by MSP is known as primary ash, and the primary ash is equal to about 32% of the hazardous waste tonnage received by MSP. Of the 160,000 tons worth of residual imminent risk, according to EPA, this is equal to a tremendous quantity of ash that has to be dealt with. The remediation of the ash could be an extensive task, costing large sums of money. The bid permit application should be denied and action taken as soon as possible to remedy the ash problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Super. Your chart is exhibit number 32. Mary Tutwiler.
Hi, I'm Mary Tutwiler. I'm from New Iberia, and I came down here to talk to y'all because I wanted you to know that the problems that marine shale has caused are not only applicable in this community, but they affect my community too. The trains that carry hazardous waste that come from all across the country travel right through the middle of my little town. And these trains run half a block from a school, right down the road from my house. They move right through the center of town, and in that way, our community is being affected by the transportation of hazardous waste, and it is going to marine shale. It's the only reason it's headed that way. I serve on an environmental committee in New Iberia that the parish council has appointed to advise them on environmental issues. And these things come up to the parish council, usually promoted as being good for the community. They'll create jobs. They will bring more revenue into our communities, and we have to weigh what's going on when an application is made against what it will do detrimentally to our community, because often these are waste facilities of some sort. And over the years, I've had to look at a lot of these things, and I have learned that the argument of jobs versus the environment is absolutely bogus. There is no good facility that pollutes, because ultimately it is a detriment to the community, and it does not provide the kind of revenue that you're looking for when you're looking for good jobs. And that's what I wanted to talk about today about marine shale. According to a recent full-page ad in the March 4th edition of the Daily Review, marine shale's presence means 1,718 Louisiana people have jobs at home. A bar graph in the full-page ad is entitled Marine Shale Processors Employment Impact and indicates the following. 1988, 1,222 employment impact. 1989, 1,367 employment impact. 1990, 1,424 employment impact. 1991, 1,643 employment impact. 1992, 1,718 employment impact. The employment impact has increased every year. Now let's compare the employment impact to the quantity of hazardous waste received. From 1988 to 1989, the quantity of hazardous waste received by marine shale processors increased by 22%. The employment impact increased by 145 jobs. From 1989 to 1990, the hazardous waste increased 116%, while the employment impacts only increased by 57 jobs, the lowest increase in the 5-year period. From 1990 to 1991, the hazardous waste decreased by 23%, while the employment impact increased by 219 jobs, the largest increase in job impacts in the 5-year period. From 1991 to 1992, the hazardous waste increased by 35%, while the employment impact increased by 75 jobs. The employment impact did not track the receipt of hazardous waste. In 1989, 32 tons of hazardous waste was received by marine shell processors for each employment impact job. In 1989, 35 tons per job. In 1990, 73 tons per job. In 1991, 49 tons per job. And in 1992, 63 tons per job. Since marine shell processors is paid by the ton, the number of employment impact is less when the waste quantity increases, indicating an economic benefit to marine shale and not to the economy of the area. In 1988, each employment impact job was equal to 32 tons of hazardous waste being accepted by marine shale processors. In 1990, 73 tons of hazardous waste were required for each employment job. The economic impact is becoming more costly than the health and welfare of our community and the quality of our environment. Marine shale is quick to demonstrate the job impact but does not present the increase in environmental cost of these jobs. If each job has more than doubled in quantity of waste processed to support each job, then marine shale has increased profits as the environmental degradation has doubled. Marine shale processors is operating out of compliance with air, water, and hazardous waste regulations and polluting the environment with toxic emissions into the air and water. How much are these jobs costing in relation to degradation of the environment and impacts on the health of the community? Please deny the permit and improve the quality of life in St. Mary Parish.
Thank you, Ms. Tutwiler. Lee Hines.
Thank you very much for your time. Yes, the people of Morgan City are tired of this MSP matter. Perhaps MSP thought it could win by attrition. MSP was wrong. We're still here and we're still upset. Over the last 8 years, MSP has proven one thing. That is that it will not comply with the laws or permit requirements. MSP applied to DEQ for an air emission permit. MSP got the permit conditions it requested. Later, MSP decided that it did not like the permit it requested. After having its request for a variance and a modification denied, MSP just decided it would continue violating the existing permit conditions and continue operating 29 unpermitted sources. As a result, the Secretary of DEQ has determined that MSP's emissions create an unacceptable toxic health risk of as much as 1 in 100. That risk is unacceptable. In 1986, according to EPA, MSP obtained a water discharge permit. By fraudulently failing to disclose the true nature of its water discharge. Even after obtaining that water discharge permit by subterfuge, MSP violated its terms and conditions. Back in 1985, MSP started out telling everyone it would only burn non-hazardous oil field waste. And I guess that wasn't profitable enough because MSP soon shifted to burning all kinds of hazardous waste. In 1989, MSP pleaded guilty to violating the hazardous waste laws. The penalty was $1 million. MSP must have something to hide because it claimed that its bid certificate of compliance was business confidential. Thus, the public can't even look to see what MSP burns and how well the substances are destroyed. If MSP is really so confident that its operation is effective, why isn't the certificate of compliance available for public comment? We all know the answer. MSP doesn't want the public to know what is really going on out of the facility. Over the years, there have been fires and explosions at the MSP facility. Inspections conducted by DEQ and EPA have disclosed innumerable violations of environmental laws. In short, MSP has proven that it will not comply with the laws, regulations, and permit requirements. Therefore, it does not matter whether you classify the MSP facility as an incendiary or a build. The end result will be the same. MSP will continue to harm public health and the environment until it is shut down. Giving MSP a permit will just mean that we will be back here in a couple more years when the EPA has to bring an enforcement action over permit violations. In the meantime, MSP will continue polluting the air, land, and water. Don't let that happen. Don't give MSP this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Eon Cryer.
My name is Ian Cryer, and I'm 19 years old. Although I'm not a native of Morgan City, I pretty much grew up here, so I consider Morgan City my home. So according to various news reports and legal documents, Laidlaw has the option to purchase marine shell processors. According to documents on file with DEQ, Laidlaw has shipped large quantities of hazardous waste to MSP. One of the Laidlaw facilities that ships hazardous waste to MSP is located in Crowley, Louisiana, in Acadia Parish. That Laidlaw facility is a hazardous waste fuels blending facility that has a history of non-compliance similar to that of marine shell processors. In December of 1993, the DEQ issued a compliance order to Laidlaw charging illegal and improper storage of hazardous waste, illegal land disposal of restricted hazardous waste, and failed to perform proper hazardous waste determinations. In late January 1994, DEQ levied a $1,055,144 fine against Laidlaw for hazardous waste violations and fires. In the fall of 1993, Mr. Donald Hartley of Roberts Cove wrote a letter to Mr. Nichols of the Crowley Post-Signal newspaper concerning the Laidlaw facility. In his letter, Mr. Hartley described illegal activities performed at the Laidlaw facility that involved marine shell processors. The following is a portion of the letter written by Mr. Hartley. I'm writing to you and the citizens of Crowley about a topic that concerns all of us. I'm a resident of Roberts Cove and a former employee of Laidlaw Environmental Services for 4 years. I grew up 1 mile from Laidlaw and now live a half mile from the plant. This place has been in our family for over 100 years, so my relatives and I are proud to call this place our home. I'm very troubled about Laidlaw because I'm a person who can tell you about the dark side of working at Laidlaw. This is the side that nobody hears about, because we were told by our supervisor, what goes on at Laidlaw stays at Laidlaw. This means not even telling your wife or your family the illegal thing that goes on at the plant. Every day you go to work, knowing that a jail cell is waiting for you with your name on it, because I could be held responsible for what goes on at the plant. We have loaded drums on trailers to store them because we had nowhere else to store them legally. This practice is illegal because we are not permitted to do so as per DEQ. We have double-stacked drums and stored them on staging areas for weeks, which we are not permitted to do as per DEQ. We have sent thousands of drums to MSP in Morgan City illegally by changing the hazardous waste descriptions of the waste. The only way the waste description can be changed is if the waste has gone through a process at the plant. This means the waste must be mixed with other waste and made into a blended fuel. We would take drums off one trailer and change the description of the waste by changing the labels and marking, and then putting the drums back on another trailer for MSP. We would do this to the drums that were stored already in the warehouse that had not any process done to them. This was done so that we could bring the drum inventory down, so we could get rid of some of the drums. The tanks were full because the other disposal facilities were not able to accept our blended fuel. The people in charge of the scheduling the drums were in didn't care if we could hold the drums legally or not. They overloaded the plant with more drums than the plant could handle, because it was up to the supervisor and facility manager to get rid of the drums of waste. MSP was on their way to out of the situation we were put in. Most of the people in the office didn't know about this, but the supervisors and facility manager knew what was going on with the plant. The money was first and EPA regulations were second. We also shipped waste out in 5 and 6 gallon pails. A normal pail's load would consist of about 100 tons of waste, but there have been times when those pail loads have been as many as 900 drums as shown on them. One load. Most of the drums shown on that pail load were shipped to MSP. What was shown on the paperwork is going to the disposal facility where the pails were supposed to be shipped, not MSP. The manifest didn't show all the EPA waste codes that were being sent to MSP, because those drums were shown those drums shown were sent to other disposal sites out of state. The waste of those are what tells you what chemicals are in those drums. This way of handling drums is almost impossible to trace by DEQ or anybody else, because all the paperwork has been done correctly, and the drums were shown going to where they were supposed to go. So only ones who knew this was illegal were the ones doing it illegal. In order for such an illegal activity to take place, both facilities have to cooperate. Mr. Hartley is concerned about the late loss of the facility. The citizens of Morgan City are concerned about the illegal activities taking place at Marine Shell processors. I would like to present a copy of Mr. Hartley's letter for inclusion in the administrative record. Please add the information to the list of non-compliance issues associated with Marine Shell. Use this information and other information presented here tonight to deny the request for an industrial furnace permit.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Gary McDaniel. Robert Bourgeois again. He's spoken, has he not? B.F. Jones.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning. Yeah.
I came up here tonight just to see what was going on. I didn't intend on speaking. After I sat here for about an hour and a half, I decided I needed to say my piece. I am retired from the major oil company. I know equipment, I know burners, boilers. I've got some experience. And I respectfully request that you approve MSP's permit. And if they violate the permit, you find them out of business. And the reason I say this, I recently toured their plant. I have studied their flow schematics. And I really see nothing wrong with what these people are doing. They've got a clean facility. People are well informed. And the only obnoxious fume that I smelled in that plant was from paint, while doing some maintenance painting. And the reason I want to bring that forward is because I've got a nose that's more sensitive than a pointing bird dog got. I've worked in that area for many, many years. I've never smelled that junk from the highway. But yet, come November, all of South Louisiana is one big smoke screen. It's my personal belief that MSP puts out less than a year of what comes from these cane fields during harvest season. Therefore, I humbly request that you approve MSP's permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. John Morris.
Good morning. My name is John Morris. I'm here, I was going to say tonight, but I'm here this morning, to stress my feelings in regards to EPA's handling of this entire situation. A concerned citizens group feels MSP has violated certain pollution laws. MSP feels it has been an outstanding corporate citizen, and that its problems stem from the fact that EPA has little or no guidelines to regulate a furnace of this type. It appears EPA is determined to make its case, saying that Marine Shell Processors has not complied with a set of regulations that do not apply to this type of operation. As a citizen, we look toward various state and federal agencies to provide us with answers. As I see it, EPA has failed in this role. If MSP is guilty of pollution, you have waited far too long to do something. If they are innocent, you have deliberately tried to outspend them on legal fees. You have spent our tax dollars on unreasonably lengthy legal issues and have tried unsuccessfully to financially impact the operations of MSP, thereby not having to prove anything at all. We all live in this community and all want clean air, water, and soil. Both concerned citizens, MSP employees, and the general public at large. Government agencies today are all under much more pressure from the public to act and react responsibly, prudently, and within a reasonable time frame. I do not think the years spent in litigation against MSP qualify for any of the above. I have been in the MSP facility, and I challenge any business or industry to provide as clean, as well kept, and as organized a facility as this. I also challenge any business to be scrutinized by the DEQ, EPA, and FBI for 9 years and to still be in operation today. My request to you is to carefully evaluate the facts. If you have a case, make it. If not, let this company return to the business of doing business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Karen Laughlin, I think she spoke, didn't she? And Catherine Guillory.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Catherine Guillory. I live in Amelia for the past 27 years. I am a nurse for the past 32 years. I am the nurse for marine shell processors for the past 4 years. Being the nurse, I do physicals on all employees. I don't see how it is possible for the employees to test as lead-free as they do when they are supposed to be subject to all the lead content that the opposition keeps telling us about. We do physicals annually on our employees. Tell me another company in the area that does this. I do not have to work at Marine Shell. There are many jobs for nurses. I would not work there if I thought that it would impair my health or the health of others in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guillory. Michael Merla.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen who still remain. My name is Michael Merla. I earned a bachelor's degree and a master's of science degree both from Louisiana State University. I work at Marine Shell Processors as an environmental specialist. Tonight I shall not talk about the regulations concerning marine shell, however I shall talk about SLAP. The term SLAP is an acronym for South Louisiana Against Pollution. I'm sure most everybody still here is familiar with this small group of people comprising SLAP and their self-proclaimed reason for existence: to protect you, the people of South Louisiana, from health problems created by pollution, in particular marine shell processors. Members of SLAP have made numerous alleged statements as to the harmful effects MSP's operations are having on the environment and the health and safety of people in Morgan City and surrounding communities. SLAP would have you believe that they are acting in their best interest in protecting you, the people of South Louisiana, by attacking marine shell processors. However, SLAP members have not informed you as to their source of funding and the reason for their true existence. I shall. In a administrative hearing before LDEQ, an attorney representing SLAP admitted that SLAP receives money in the form of legal funding from the HWTC. The HWTC is the Hazardous Waste Treatment Council, a powerful lobbying group in Washington, D.C. that is comprised of hazardous waste incinerators such as Rollins, Ensco, and many others, all of which are competitors of MSP. SLAP would have you believe that they are protecting you from marine shale processors, when in fact SLAP is being paid to represent the political agenda of the HWTC, hazardous waste incineration, a technology made obsolete by MSP's vitrification process. Simply put, SLAP's sole existence is to put marine shale processors out of business, something our competitors would love to see happen, and in fact are paying for it. This fact is evidenced by the receipt of prepared statements that was given at the hearing tonight by members and or past members of SLAP. The prepared statements I am referring to were prepared and Federal expressed here by the HWTC. In summary, SLAP is an appropriate acronym for this group of self-proclaimed do-gooders because it is in fact a slap in the face of every citizen in South Louisiana when they spread their untruths of how they care for you and want to protect you, the people of South Louisiana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm going to start back through those who didn't finish. I realize some we haven't heard, others I have had to cut short, and I'm sorry to have to do so, but I think everyone understands the circumstances tonight. I think some who I had to cut short are gone also. That is regrettable, but I talked to some of them. They still have until July the 1st to submit in total their testimony, and it will not be any of the less reviewed or considered when it's done that way. I would admonish you, it is very easy to listen and then rebut what you have heard through the evening. Now, this, I would remind you, is not a debate, and it's not an argumentative, it's not a gathering for argumentative conversation. We expect your testimony and not a rebuttal of someone else's testimony. And that's so that when I call on the rest of you, we would rather hear your testimony and not what I had just expressed. For the record, however, I will call on those whom I had to cut short. Dr. Philip Goad, Mr. Bob Havens. Those are the gentlemen I talked to who had this material on the screen up there. I'm sure all of you know that. Kim Fultz. Would you come forward, please, and complete your testimony? You have another 5 minutes.
MSP apparently claims that it first became a subject of regular requirements when the EPA promulgated the BFI regulations on February 21st, 1991. MSP, however, was required by law to have a regular permit by no later than July 31st, 1985, when it began storing and incinerating hazardous waste. As shown by MSP, September 19, 1998, criminal conviction for violating RCRA and the Clean Water Act, MSP was indisputably storing hazardous waste without a permit by July 31st, 1985. As EPA is well aware, MSP has incinerated hazardous waste since being in operation in 1985. Thus, EPA's BIF regulation did not render MSP subject to the requirements to have a RCRA permit for the first time. Consequently, MSP actions in 1985 precluded it from ever qualifying for interim status under RCRA. MSP has admitted and been convicted of violating RCRA by operating a RCRA facility without interim status or a permit in 1985. That admission and conviction precludes MSP as a matter of law from attaining interim status because MSP failed to file for a permit at the time it first became subject to RCRA regulations. Because MSP's lack of interim status is clear, the regional administrator should immediately cease processing the MSP's RCRA BIF permit application. MSP is a renegade facility and does not comply, and never has complied with a permit of any kind. MSP history shows all too familiar story of deceit. Early in 1985, MSP told DEQ that MSP wanted a modified permit to allow for the burning of non-hazardous oil field waste. When the legislature failed to pass a law that would have created an MSP monopoly for burning such waste, MSP decided it would use such creosote-contaminated soil as a fuel source. In the fall of 1985, MSP conducted an abbreviated stack test to set ag emissions for burning creosote-contaminated soil. After being pressured by the governor's office, DEQ issued a permit to MSP in 1986. That permit, which applies only to incinerated kilns, set emission limits for particulates, SO2, NOx, CO, and hydrocarbons. Stack tests conducted in 1988 and 1990 showed MSP to be out of compliance with its requested permit limits. While declaring publicly it would not burn only creosote-contaminated soil, it would burn only creosote-contaminated soil, MSP began indiscriminately accepting and burning virtually every hazardous waste known to man. This included operating 29 unpermitted miscellaneous emission sources, consistently most of open-top tanks used for mixing and diluting hazardous waste prior to feeding them into the incinerated kiln. In a decision upheld by the Louisiana Supreme Court, DEQ denied MSP's various requests for the 29 unpermitted sources. MSP then sought to modify its permit to add the unpermitted sources and increase kiln emissions. DEQ denied that permit request. MSP appeal of that decision resulted in a 2-month-long adjudicatory hearing. In a December 19, 1991 ruling, the administrative law judge concluded that the matter of law, MSP was not in compliance with its air emission permit limits for the incinerated kiln stack. Additionally, he concluded that the 29 miscellaneous sources are not exempt from permitting and that MSP must obtain a proper permit to continue operating them. Not surprising, the judge concluded that under the current MSP material receipt and approval system, hazardous waste accepted for incineration, the department has no way of knowing the concentration of specific waste fed into kiln number 1 and is unable to evaluate their potential impact on air quality until after they are burned. Then it is too late. MSP has been debarred from federal contracts by the federal government. MSP was debarred for a pattern of misconduct rather than an isolated instance. As the United States held in the debarment proceedings, the record associated with MSP's conviction shows a pattern or policy of corporate disregard for compliance with environmental laws in order to avoid the cost of operating an environmental legitimate business. Further, the United States continues that environmental compliance is an important component of the modern business ethic. MSP's criminal conduct and the evidence of its conducting irresponsibility and improper conduct constitutes a threat to the government's interest. The DEQ has publicly agreed. DEQ stated that the MSP facility reveals a history replete with citations of violations of environmental law and regulations and a pattern indicative of disregard for the state's environmental regulations with respect to DEQ directives. More importantly, MSP continuously operations pose a significant threat to the health and welfare of the people in Morgan City. That threat has continued for too long. It doesn't really matter whether MSP is called an incinerator, which it is, or a BFI, which it would like to be. To be or not to be is the real issue here today. The bottom line is that Marine Shell has proven one thing after acquiring all of the existing permits. MSP has failed miserably to comply with any of them. Nothing will change in the future. MSP's history of major non-compliance proves that no matter what the incinerator is called, Marine Shell should not receive a permit to continue polluting the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falls. That's all the speakers that I have. Have I missed anyone? Does anyone wish to add to their testimony? Ms. Wilma Subra, you have another 5 minutes.
Good morning again. My name is Wilma Subra. I will submit the rest of my written testimony in writing. I have the box.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
I will submit the rest of my testimony in writing.
All right, thank you.
I have the box to read into the record, the infamous Federal Express box, which is really a express mailbox, and it's addressed to Wilma Subra from Brian Conway of Bayford, Louisiana. Here is the box. Thank you.